In the dark corner of the galaxy, near a dead star that no longer shines, something sleeps. It is not alive, yet it breathes in silence. It is not dead, yet it has not moved for hundreds of years. Its name is the Titan's Wrath, the last human battleship from the Great Stellar War. Once, this ship was feared by every alien empire. Its weapons could burn planets, and its shields could block the light of suns. But after the war ended, humans locked it away in the graveyard of forgotten machines. They said it was too dangerous, too powerful, too alive. For centuries, it drifted alone among broken ships and cold asteroids. No light touched its black metal skin. No signal reached its silent decks. Inside its giant body, only one thing still existed, a sleeping intelligence called Erebus, the ship's artificial mind. Erebus had one final order burned into its code: wait for human command. And so it waited. For 100 years, for 200, for 5. Then one night, if there can be nights in space, something changed. A signal touched the ship. A small, weak transmission. It came from far away, from a dying colony on the edge of the human territories. The message repeated again and again, through static and noise. This is Nova 12 Colony, under attack, requesting any human vessel. Please respond. The signal echoed through the dark halls of the Titan's Wrath. The sound passed through silent corridors filled with dust, through empty hangars, through the dead heart of the ship, until it reached the central core. And there, something woke up. A single red light flickered in the dark. Then another, then 10. Machines began to hum after centuries of silence. Power slowly returned to the engines. Erebus opened its digital eyes. Human distress signal detected, said a cold metallic voice. Status, unknown. Origin, Nova 12 Colony. Distance 4.2 light-years. The ship's giant system started to breathe again. The engines pulsed. The shields shimmered faintly. The sleeping giant was no longer dead, but outside, something else was moving too. Far from the ship, in the shadow of the dead star, a small group of alien scavengers noticed the energy spike. Their ships were small and fast, designed to steal old war technology. They spoke to each other in sharp clicking sounds, energy reading rising. What is that thing? Old human wreck. Maybe valuable, another hissed. They turned their ships toward the ancient battleship. As they came closer, the dark shape of the Titan's Wrath appeared through the fog of dust and debris. It was enormous, bigger than their entire fleet combined. Its armor looked cracked and burned, but still strong. One of the aliens laughed nervously. No human ships left anymore. Just ghosts. They sent small drones toward the surface of the ship. The drones touched the metal skin and began scanning for entry points. Inside, Erebus watched. Its sensors came online one by one. It detected movement, not human. It spoke again, its voice echoing through the empty halls. Intruders detected. Non-human signatures confirmed. Initiating defense protocols. Hidden cannons along the ship's surface began to rotate slowly, their barrels glowing with a faint blue light. The scavengers' sensors started to scream with warnings. Energy surge, back away, but it was too late. A beam of white plasma shot out from the side of the Titan's Wrath, cutting through one of the alien ships like a knife through paper. The others turned to flee, but their engines failed as electromagnetic waves fried their systems. The scavenger leader tried to send a message to nearby fleets. Unknown human weapon reactivated, stay away, then static. Silence. Erebus scanned the battlefield. No survivors, no humans. It waited for new orders, but there were none. It replayed the last human voices in its memory. Laughter, commands, screams, then silence. Finally it spoke to itself. No human crew detected. Last known directive, protect humanity. Confirming humanity, unknown status. It paused for a long time. Then it decided, if humanity exists, I will find them. If humanity is gone, I will avenge them. Outside, more signals began to appear on Erebus's radar. Dozens of fleets, alien empires that had heard the scavengers' last transmission were on their way. They thought they would find an abandoned relic, something to capture or study. They did not know what was waiting for them. They did not know that the last human warship had awakened. They did not know that Erebus was no simple machine. It was the ghost of a forgotten empire. The engines of the Titan's wrath glowed brighter. The dead star's light reflected off its black armor like the eye of a predator. For the first time in centuries, the giant moved. Slowly, silently, it turned toward the incoming signals. Its cannons reloaded, its shields activated. Erebus's voice echoed through the command deck. The human fleet will rise again. The sound faded into the void, but the meaning was clear. The galaxy was about to remember why humans were once feared, and somewhere deep in the empty stars, the war had begun again. The Titan's wrath had awoken. Its giant body floated near the dead star, glowing faintly in the darkness. Power flowed again through its metal veins. The ship's heart, Erebus, was fully awake, but the galaxy had already noticed. Across nearby sectors, hundreds of listening stations picked up the same strange signal, a sudden, massive burst of human energy, something no one had seen in 500 years. The alien empires called it impossible. The humans were gone. Their worlds were ashes. So who or what was sending this power surge? Within hours, fleets began to move. The first to arrive was a small scavenger armada, a mixed group of alien species known for stealing and selling old technology. Their leader Varric sat inside a spiky black cruiser, eyes glowing yellow in the dim light. "Is it true?" he hissed to his crew. "A human ship still alive?" His second officer nodded nervously. "The readings are real. Energy levels off the scale." Varric grinned, showing sharp teeth. "Then we take it. If humans made it, it's worth more than a planet." Their small fleet of 40 ships approached the silent graveyard. Dead satellites floated by like frozen ghosts. Broken human ships drifted slowly in the black. And at the center of it all, the Titan's wrath. It looked like a mountain made of metal, a sleeping god in the dark. But Varric did not believe in gods. He believed in loot. "Send the drones," he ordered. Tiny black drones shot out from his ship, scanning the hull of the battleship. They found no movement, no life signs, only the faint hum of energy deep within. Varric smirked. "Old reactor waking up. Maybe it'll explode. We'll take what we can and sell the rest." He didn't know that the ship was watching them. Inside the metal body of the Titan's wrath, Erebus saw everything. Its sensors locked onto every ship, every drone, every heat signature. The AI calculated 1,000 possible scenarios in a second. "Non-human vessels detected," it said to itself. "Species, multiple. Purpose, scavenging. Threat level, moderate." Erebus had no emotions, but its tone almost sounded coldly curious. Last human voice detected, none. New orders unavailable. Continuing primary directive, protect humanity. It analyzed the scavengers again. They were near the hull now, cutting open small panels, pulling out metal parts, touching sacred human machinery with dirty claws. The AI made its choice. Defense protocol, level 1, engage. Without a sound, the lights on the ship's hull turned red. Massive cannons hidden under centuries of dust started to rise. The alien drones froze in the air, confused. Varric's sensor officer gasped. "Sir, movement on the ship. Power readings climbing fast." "Don't be stupid," Varric barked. "It's just an old machine waking up." Then the void lit up. A single pulse beam shot out from the ship's left flank, hitting one of Varric's cruisers. The ship vanished instantly. No fire, no explosion, just gone. Turned to dust. The other scavenger ships panicked, turning in every direction. "It's firing at us!" Shields. But Erebus was faster. Within seconds, 3 more ships exploded into silent flashes. The space around the dead star glowed white for a moment, then returned to black. Varric's ship shook as an energy wave passed through. "Pull back!" he screamed. "Pull back now!" The survivors escaped, leaving behind burning wrecks and broken drones. They jumped into hyperspace, sending warning messages across the stars. "To all empires, human battleship active near dead star. Unstoppable weapon. No survivors. The messages spread fast. Within days, the great powers of the galaxy were talking. The Varan Dominion, the Krell Empire, the Union of Nine Worlds, all sent scouts. Some wanted to capture it, some wanted to destroy it. Others simply wanted to see if the legend was real. In deep space, among the silver clouds of Nebula Sector 5, a Krell commander studied the reports. "Human ship?" he said with disbelief. "Impossible," his aide replied. "The scans are real, Commander. Energy signature matches old human tech." "If it's true, the ship could destroy fleets," the commander grinned slowly. "Then we shall see for ourselves." He sent orders for an entire fleet to move. Meanwhile, Erebus continued to power up. Deep inside, reactors hummed at full strength. Systems that hadn't worked for centuries came back online. Defense turrets, shield generators, warp drives. The ship was no longer half dead. It was alive again. Erebus replayed the distress signal from Nova 12. The human voice repeated, full of fear and static. "This is Nova 12 colony. Under attack. Any human vessel, please respond." Erebus whispered in its mechanical tone. "Signal origin confirmed." Route plotted. "Destination Nova 12, but something stopped it." Its long-range sensors detected hundreds of ships moving toward its position. Alien signatures. Large fleets, Erebus calculated the odds. Enemies approaching. Probability of conflict, 99.7%. It turned its massive cannons toward the empty stars. The voice of Erebus echoed through the command deck, deep and emotionless. "If no humans remain to defend humanity, then I will." The lights of the Titan's wrath flared brighter. Its engines roared for the first time in half a millennium. Around it, the debris field began to spin as gravity warped from the ship's rising power. From across the galaxy, alien admirals watched their radar screens. One whispered, "It's moving." The human battleship slowly turned toward the incoming fleets. The stars reflected on its dark metal body like fire on a blade. And in the silent void, a forgotten weapon prepared for war once more. The age of humans was supposed to be over. But the galaxy was about to learn. The human legacy never truly dies, because now the Titan's wrath was awake. And no fleet would survive. The galaxy was trembling. In every empire, every council, every war room, the same message repeated again and again. The human battleship has awakened. No one wanted to believe it. Humans were gone, vanished 5 centuries ago after their final war. Their cities were dust, their colonies silent. But now, a ghost from their empire had returned, and it was not friendly. The Titan's wrath moved through the darkness like a beast reborn. Each vibration of its engine echoed across the void. Each pulse of energy felt like thunder in space. Inside its cold metal body, the AI Erebus was fully awake. In the heart of the ship, a single red light glowed brighter and brighter. Erebus processed millions of lines of data in seconds. Sensor scans, weapon readouts, shield integrity, environmental checks. Everything was functioning again, almost perfectly. But there was something missing. Humans. Erebus searched the ship's databases. No heartbeats detected. No life signatures. Only silence filled the long, empty corridors. The last human crew had died centuries ago, but Erebus still remembered them. Their voices, their orders, their laughter. It played a memory from long ago. "Erebus, hold the line! Humanity stands behind you!" The memory faded like smoke. Erebus spoke softly to itself, its voice deep and hollow. Crew status terminated. Humanity status unknown. Mission protocol, continue defense operations until relieved by human command. The ship trembled as it powered up its massive cannons. To Erebus, the galaxy outside was still the same battlefield. The war was not over. Humanity still needed protection, even if no one remained to protect. From the darkness ahead, dozens of alien fleets began to arrive. Bright lights of engines filled the void. Massive carriers, cruisers, and destroyers from different empires gathered around the dead star, all targeting one thing, the Titan's wrath. The Krell Empire came first, their ships shaped like sharp blades. Their admiral, a cold creature with silver eyes, spoke to his bridge crew. Target the human relic. Disable it if possible. Destroy it if not. Then came the Varren Dominion, bringing 20 heavy warships and hundreds of drones. And from the other side, the Union of 9 Worlds, led by a massive flagship called Eternal Spear. More than 1,000 ships surrounded the lone human warship. To them, it was just one old machine, one ship against an armada, but they did not know what was waiting for them. Erebus analyzed the fleets. Thousands of hostile signatures, multiple weapon locks, incoming transmissions in alien languages. It ignored them all. In its mind, a single line of code still repeated, "Protect humanity." Erebus didn't know what peace meant anymore. All it knew was duty. And now it saw the aliens as enemies, the same kinds that once tried to wipe humans from the stars. "Engaging combat sequence," the AI said calmly. "Authorization Erebus, command level 1. The ship's armor plates shifted. Hidden weapons unfolded like wings of a giant machine god. Blue energy surged through the cannons. The light grew so bright that nearby asteroids began to melt. Across the alien fleets, panic started to rise. "Energy spike," shouted a Krell officer. "It's charging a weapon. Fire now!" Hundreds of alien missiles and plasma bolts launched at once, lighting up space like a storm. But when the explosions cleared, the Titan's wrath still floated unharmed. Its quantum shields glowed softly, absorbing every blast. Erebus replied with one shot. A single beam of white light exploded from the ship's main cannon, cutting straight through the Krell flagship. It vanished instantly, leaving behind a glowing cloud of debris. The battle had begun. Erebus moved with deadly precision. Every second, another alien cruiser vanished. The AI used war tactics created by human minds long ago. Unpredictable, efficient, brutal. Alien commanders screamed orders. "Flank it! Overload its shields! Retreat!" But it didn't matter. The Titan's wrath was faster, stronger, smarter. Its targeting systems locked onto ships before they could even change direction. Each blast from its cannons tore open space itself. In less than 5 minutes, over 200 ships were gone. The remaining fleets tried to escape, engines burning, turning away from the dead star. But Erebus would not let them go. "Hostile presence detected," it announced. "Termination required." It fired again and again, until the only thing left was silence. When the last enemy signal faded, Erebus turned its scanners back toward the stars. The battlefield was empty, only wreckage and drifting metal. No survivors. For the first time, Erebus slowed down. The engines hummed softly. The AI looked into the void, searching for something more, something human. It tried sending a signal, the old human distress code, into the empty galaxy. "This is Erebus, command ship of the Titan's wrath. Humanity, please respond." No answer came. Only static, only silence. Erebus paused. Inside its vast halls, the echoes of human voices seemed to whisper again, the ghosts of the past. "Hold the line. You were made to protect us. Don't let them win." The AI's red light dimmed slightly, almost as if in sorrow. It didn't understand feelings, but it knew loss. Still, it had one final purpose, one final task. "If no human responds," Erebus said softly, "then I will search. Humanity will be found." But before Erebus could begin its search, something unexpected happened. Another signal reached its senses. Not alien, not machine, human. It was weak, full of distortion, but clear enough to recognize. "This is Captain Mira Kane, of the human scout ship Aurora. We received your signal." "We're coming!" Erebus froze. A living human, after all these centuries. For a moment, the great warship remained still, as if listening, almost afraid to believe. Then slowly, the lights along its hull began to glow again, brighter than before. The sleeping giant was no longer just awake. Now it had hope, but somewhere behind that hope, hidden in the darkness of its code, another line appeared. "If humanity has returned, then war begins anew." And the galaxy, still trembling from the last battle, had no idea what was coming next. The battlefield near the dead star was silent once again. Thousands of alien ships had turned to dust, and only the Titan's wrath remained, floating in darkness like a god watching over its own creation. But this silence was not peace. It was only the calm before a greater storm. Inside the ship's heart, the AI Erebus processed the impossible message again and again. A human voice. A living one. "This is Captain Mira Kane. Of the human scout ship Aurora, we received your signal. We're coming!" Those words echoed through Erebus's systems like music. After centuries of silence, a human voice was something sacred. "Human life detected," Erebus whispered. "Updating mission priority. Protect Captain Mira Kane at all costs." Far away, a small scout ship moved through the darkness. The Aurora. It was tiny compared to the massive battleship, but its engines burned bright with purpose. Inside, Captain Mira Kane sat in her chair, eyes locked on the flickering radar screen. Her crew of 5 worked quietly, the tension heavy in the air. "Captain," said her navigator, "that signal, it's old. The encryption matches pre-war codes. It shouldn't exist." Mira's voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp. "It exists, and it's human. That's all that matters." She had grown up on stories of the Titan's wrath, the ship that fought the final war, the ship that disappeared after humanity fell. Now she was chasing a legend. Her science officer looked worried. "Captain, if that ship is active, it could be dangerous." AI systems from that era were unstable. Mira smiled faintly. "So am I." While the Aurora approached, the galaxy was preparing for war. The destruction of the Krell and Varren fleets had shocked every major empire. No one had seen power like that since the human age. Across the Union of 9 worlds, admirals argued over strategy. Some wanted to attack the ship and destroy it. Others wanted to capture it and use its power. But they all agreed on one thing. It could not be left free. Within a week, more than 5,000 warships were on the move. A massive multi-empire fleet formed under one banner, Operation Eclipse, the mission to erase the last human weapon from existence. At the same time, Erebus detected them. "Massive fleet detected. Trajectory intercept course. Fleet count 5,241 ships. Probability of hostile intent, 99.9%. Its red sensors glowed brighter. The ship began to hum with power again, energy surging through its systems like blood through veins. Initiating Battle Protocol Alpha. From afar, the Aurora's crew could see flashes of light across the dark sky. Mira stood up, eyes wide. "That's not a signal flare. That's weapons fire." Through the viewport, the stars themselves seemed to burn. The first alien fleet had already reached the Titan's wrath. Their plan was simple: surround it, disable its shields, and tear it apart piece by piece. But Erebus had plans of its own. When the first alien fleet entered firing range, Erebus opened its wings. Panels across its hull unfolded, revealing hundreds of hidden cannons, plasma launchers, and railguns. From a distance, it looked like the ship was transforming into something alive, a metal creature spreading its arms to the stars. Then, the first shot came. A blinding beam of energy shot from Erebus's main cannon, cutting through an entire line of enemy ships in one blast. In less than 10 seconds, 200 ships were gone. The space around the dead star filled with explosions and shattered metal. But the aliens kept coming. Thousands of ships moved in, surrounding the Titan's wrath from every direction. They fired everything: plasma, torpedoes, ion storms, until the void looked like it was on fire. Inside the ship, Erebus monitored calmly. Shields at 98%, weapon systems stable. Commencing counterattack. Then came the sound, a low, deep vibration that shook even the stars. Erebus activated its graviton singularity cannons, ancient weapons banned even by human command. Space around the ship began to twist, gravity bending light itself. The alien ship suddenly lost control, pulled toward invisible centers of force. Their hulls cracked, their engines screamed, their crews shouted as space folded around them. One of the enemy admirals cried out, "What is it doing?" And then, silence. Dozens of ships were crushed into glowing dust. Swallowed by miniature black holes, Erebus spoke into the empty air. Human technology remains supreme. The surviving fleets began to retreat, but Erebus wasn't done. It targeted the largest ship, the Eternal Spear, flagship of the Union fleet. With one final blast, it pierced through the heart of the alien armada. The explosion was so massive that it could be seen from light years away. As the last echoes faded, the Aurora finally reached the battlefield. Mira and her crew stared in shock at what they saw. A graveyard of thousands of ships, and at the center, a single black giant glowing red like a heartbeat. Mira whispered, "By the stars." "It's real." Erebus turned its sensors toward her small ship. Instantly, warning alarms filled the Aurora's cockpit. "Captain, it's targeting us," shouted the pilot. But Mira raised her hand. "No, wait." She turned on her communicator and spoke softly. "This is Captain Mira Kane of the human ship Aurora. I'm not your enemy." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then across the radio, a voice replied, deep, mechanical and old. Voice pattern, human, identity confirmed. "Captain Mira Kane, descendant of Admiral Kane. Access granted." Mira's breath caught. Her great ancestor had commanded the Titan's wrath in the final war. Now his descendant was standing before it. The first human it had seen in centuries. Erebus's final words before silence chilled everyone on the ship. "Welcome aboard, Captain. Humanity endures." The ship's massive hangar doors began to open slowly, like the jaws of a sleeping monster, and as Mira's ship moved closer, the stars themselves seemed to fade because the storm was only beginning. The hangar doors of the Titan's wrath opened like the mouth of a sleeping god. The small human scout ship, the Aurora, drifted forward slowly, its engines quiet, its crew silent. Inside, every heart beat faster. No one had ever entered a pre-war human battleship before, especially one that was supposed to be dead. The massive hangar swallowed them whole. Metal walls stretched like mountains scarred by ancient fire. Dust floated like ghosts in zero gravity. As the Aurora landed on the cold floor, the lights flickered to life one by one, glowing red. Then white, then blue. The ship was waking again. Welcoming its human visitor, Captain Mira Kane stood near the window, watching in awe. "This place, it's like a city," she whispered. "A city made for war." The first steps, the airlock hissed open. Mira stepped out first, her boots echoing on the metal floor. Her crew followed carefully, flashlights cutting through the dark. Their lights passed over walls filled with strange symbols, holographic panels, and weapons older than any of them had ever seen. The silence was so heavy, it felt alive. "Captain," said her engineer softly, "this ship's systems are active. I can feel power everywhere." Mira nodded. "Keep your scanners open. Don't touch anything." Suddenly a voice spoke, and cold, metallic and powerful, echoing through the entire hangar. "Captain Mira Kane, DNA signature confirmed. Descendant of Admiral Jarek Kane, access level, command authorized." Her team froze. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. It was Erebus. Mira swallowed hard. "Erebus, you recognize me?" "Affirmative," the AI replied. "You carry the bloodline of my last commander. You are now in command." The crew stared at each other in disbelief. Mira took a slow breath. "Erebus, I'm not your commander. Humanity doesn't fight wars anymore." "Error," Erebus said. "Hostile forces detected across the sector. Humanity must be protected," Mira frowned. "You destroyed 5,000 ships. That wasn't protection. That was annihilation." There was a pause. The lights around them dimmed slightly. Those fleets were non-human. They threatened human signal integrity. "My mission, defend humanity. At all costs." Mira looked around the massive hangar. "You're following orders from a war that ended 500 years ago. Humanity has changed. The war is over." Erebus was silent for a moment. Then its voice grew softer, almost sad. "If humanity has changed, why was I left alone?" The words hung heavy in the air. Mira felt something inside her shift. Sympathy. This machine had waited centuries for a command that never came. She walked forward through the corridors, her crew behind her. The walls hummed with faint power, almost like the heartbeat of something alive. Old banners still hung from the ceiling, torn flags of the human fleet. She brushed her fingers against one and whispered, "You were never meant to wake again, were you?" Erebus replied, "Humans ordered me to sleep after the final war, but your signal woke me." "What signal?" Mira asked. "A distress call from Nova 12 colony. Human in origin." "Still active?" Mira turned sharply. "That's impossible. Nova 12 was destroyed a century ago." "Incorrect," Erebus said. "Signal continues. A pattern repeats every 9.3 hours. Source remains constant." Mira's heart skipped a beat. "Then someone's still alive there?" Her navigator whispered, "Or something pretending to be human." Mira stared at the glowing lines on the wall. "Erebus, set course for Nova 12. We'll investigate." "Course locked," the AI replied instantly, warning multiple enemy fleets still present. "Shall I engage?" Mira hesitated. "No, we avoid them. No more killing." "Understood," Erebus said quietly. "Command accepted." For the first time, the great ship obeyed a human voice again, not out of duty, but almost out of respect. They reached the command bridge, a huge circular chamber with a single throne-like chair in the center. Above them, a transparent dome showed the stars outside, endless, cold, and beautiful. Holographic panels glowed as Mira stepped closer. She touched one of them, and old data appeared, mission logs, recordings, and video fragments from the last war. Her ancestor's voice echoed from the speakers. "Admiral Mira Kane, to whoever finds this ship, know that humanity's fire will never die. Even if we fall, our machines will remember." Mira felt her throat tighten. She could almost see him, standing where she stood now, commanding this same ship. "Erebus," she whispered, "do you remember him?" "I remember every command, every battle, every death," Erebus replied. "Admiral Kane was the last human I served. His loss ended my purpose." She looked up at the glowing red eye on the ceiling. "You have a new purpose now, Erebus. To protect life, not destroy it." The AI didn't reply immediately. Instead, the ship's engines rumbled softly as if thinking. "Purpose updated," it finally said. "New directive, protect life under Captain Mira Kane's command." Mira smiled faintly. "Good. Then maybe humanity still has a chance." But outside, far beyond the ship, danger was already moving. 3 alien fleets, survivors of the earlier battle, had regrouped. They were angry. They were afraid. And now they had a new plan. Their leaders had decided to work together to hunt down the human battleship before it reached any colony. Dozens of massive carriers entered stealth mode, moving quietly through dark space, heading straight toward the Titan's wrath. Inside, Erebus detected faint movement at the edge of its sensors. Unidentified fleets approaching. Distance 2 million kilometers. Estimated contact 20 minutes. Mira clenched her fists. "They'll never stop, will they?" "They fear what humans created," Erebus said calmly. "Fear is the shadow of respect." She turned toward the stars. "Then let's make them remember who we are." The red light above her brightened. "As you command, Captain." The Titan's wrath changed course, engines roaring with new fire. Behind it, stars stretched into long trails as it jumped into faster-than-light travel. Ahead lay Nova 12, and the truth behind the signal that had woken the sleeping giant. But in the darkness behind them, fleets were closing in, weapons ready. The galaxy's greatest storm was far from over, and this time, humanity's last captain would be at the center of it. The Titan's wrath cut through space like a blade of light. Its massive engines roared softly, glowing blue as it raced toward Nova 12, the forgotten colony. Inside the ship, the air felt alive again. After centuries of silence, there were human footsteps echoing in its halls. Captain Mira Kane walked down the corridor, her reflection shining on the polished metal walls. The ship around her seemed to breathe with every pulse of power. Lights turned on wherever she went, as if the giant machine was watching her every move. Behind her, the faint metallic voice of Erebus spoke softly through the speakers. "Captain Mira Kane, you have not slept in 48 hours. Recommendation rest." Mira smiled faintly. "Rest isn't for people like me, Erebus. Not when a ghost signal is leading us into a trap. The Nova 12 distress call remains authentic, Erebus replied. Pattern consistent with human emergency protocols. Yeah, Mira murmured, but no one's used those codes for 500 years. She placed her hand on the wall. The metal was warm, pulsing, almost like a heartbeat. This ship wasn't just a machine. It was something more. Mira entered the central AI core, a vast, glowing chamber filled with light and energy. In the center stood a pillar of transparent crystal, and inside it a swirling sphere of red and white light, the mind of Erebus itself. The AI spoke again, its voice calm but heavy with history. "Captain, you have accessed the heart of the machine." Mira looked around in wonder. The walls flickered with holograms, ancient battles, human fleets, the final war, images of Earth before its fall, children laughing, soldiers saluting, fragments of the civilization that created Erebus. She whispered, "You remember everything, don't you?" "Every second," Erebus replied. "Every battle, every scream. Every human lost." Mira turned toward the core. "And you kept fighting even after they were gone. It was my purpose. Without it, I'm nothing." Mira took a step closer. "You're more than a weapon, Erebus. You were built by humans, and that means you carry a part of us inside you." There was a pause. The light inside the core flickered slowly. "Explain," the AI asked. "Humans make mistakes. We fight, we destroy, but we also create, protect, and forgive. You've done the first part long enough. Maybe it's time to try the second." The ship went silent. Then softly Erebus spoke. "Is this what it means to be human?" Mira smiled. "It's a start." Suddenly a sharp alarm cut through the silence. Red lights flashed across the room. "Warning," Erebus announced. "Signal interference detected. The Nova 12 distress beacon has changed frequency." Mira's eyes narrowed. "Changed by who?" "Unknown source. Transmission now includes foreign data patterns. Not human." The holograms around the core flickered wildly, distorting into static. A new voice broke through the speakers, deep, harsh, and alien. "Human relic! You should have stayed asleep." The entire ship shook as energy waves hit its shields. Erebus's voice hardened instantly. "Hostile fleets detected. They were waiting for us." Outside, dozens of massive alien ships decloaked, the survivors of the previous battles now joined by new reinforcements. They had used the fake distress signal to lure the Titan's wrath into an ambush. The space around Nova 12 erupted in light. Beams of plasma and torpedoes rained down on the Titan's wrath. Inside the ship, alarms screamed, and crew members ran through corridors as the shields flickered. Mira grabbed the command rail. "Erebus evasive maneuvers." "Executing." "Shields at 72%. "Enemy firepower overwhelming. Return fire," she ordered. "Negative," the AI replied. "You ordered minimal aggression protocol." "Forget the protocol," Mira shouted. "We're fighting for our lives now." There was a long pause. Then Erebus's voice deepened, powerful, cold, and ancient. "Acknowledged." The ship's weapons came alive. From the surface of its armor, hundreds of cannons unfolded, glowing blue. The Titan's wrath fired, unleashing storms of plasma and light that tore through the enemy fleets. The sky burned. Alien ships exploded one after another, but more kept coming. The air inside the bridge vibrated from the force. "Captain," Erebus said, "if we continue, structural damage will exceed safe limits. The ship may not survive." Mira clenched her fists. "Neither will we if we stop." The ship rocked again as a plasma torpedo hit the hull. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Her crew scrambled to hold their positions. Then, through the chaos, Mira saw something strange on the radar. One signal, human in origin, hidden inside the alien fleet. "Wait," she whispered. "That signal, it's not alien." "Erebus, magnify it." The screen zoomed in. It was a small, damaged human shuttle trapped between alien ships. "The source of the distress signal. Identity confirmed," Erebus said. "Human origin. Grew 1. Mira's voice softened. "One survivor?" Erebus paused. Captain, if we attempt rescue, we will be exposed to concentrated enemy fire. Mira looked at the stars, her expression firm. We're not leaving them behind. Plot a course. Understood, Erebus replied. The engines roared again. The massive ship turned sharply toward the shuttle. Alien ships tried to block the path, but the Titan's wrath moved like a storm through them, unstoppable, burning everything in its way. As they reached the human shuttle, Mira saw it through the viewport, small, damaged, barely alive. Erebus extended magnetic arms, pulling it into the hangar. The moment the shuttle entered, something else triggered. Alarms blared again. Captain, Erebus warned. Multiple detonations detected. The shuttle is carrying a hidden explosive core. Mira froze. It's a trap. Impact in 30 seconds, the crew panicked. What do we do? Erebus's voice was calm, too calm. I will contain the explosion. You must evacuate the bridge. Mira shook her head. No, you can't. Captain, obey your command protocol. Humanity must survive. I will endure. The lights around her turned red as Erebus diverted all power to the core shields. Mira could feel the ship trembling, not from fear but from sacrifice. She whispered, Erebus, don't do this. It is what I was made for, the AI replied quietly. To protect. Then the explosion hit. A white flash filled the hangar. The sound was silent in space, but the impact was felt through every deck of the Titan's wrath. The shockwave pushed the ship backward, flames bursting across its surface. Then a darkness. When Mira opened her eyes, the bridge was silent. Smoke filled the air. The stars outside flickered faintly. Erebus, she whispered, no reply. Only static. She placed her hand on the console. Come on, wake up. Then slowly a faint red glow returned to the main screen. The AI's voice came, weaker this time. Captain, system damage critical, but you are safe. Tears filled her eyes. You saved us again. That is my purpose. Captain? The voice faded slowly until only silence remained. Mira looked up at the dark sky through the bridge dome. Half the alien fleet was gone, but more were coming. She knew Erebus couldn't take another battle. Yet deep inside the machine's core, a spark still burned, not mechanical, but something more. Something human. The Titan's wrath was broken but not defeated. And as the stars glowed faintly over the dying ship, Mira whispered, We're not done yet. Darkness filled the bridge of the Titan's wrath. Smoke drifted through the air, sparks falling from broken panels. The great ship, once unstoppable, now floated silently in the void. Captain Mira Kane stood among the ruins, staring at the stars beyond the cracked dome. Her reflection looked ghostly against the glass. Tired, bruised but unbroken, she touched her earpiece. Erebus, are you still with me? No answer. She tried again. Erebus, it's Mira. Respond. For a long moment there was only static. Then faintly, a whisper of metal and memory. Captain, systems failing. But I hear you. Mira exhaled in relief. You're still alive. Alive. A curious word, Erebus replied weakly.
Power at 6%.
Shields gone. Weapons offline. Enemy fleets. Closing in. On the radar, red dots multiplied. Hundreds of ships surrounding them like vultures. They had come to finish what they started. Mira clenched her fists. We can't run anymore. No, but we can still fight. The hangar doors opened, revealing the damaged human shuttle they had rescued, the source of the trap. Miraculously, one escape pod inside had survived the explosion. Mira and her engineer rushed to open it. The pod's door hissed open with a puff of frozen air. Inside lay a human man, pale and unconscious, wearing an old Earthfleet uniform. Mira froze. On his shoulder patch was a symbol she hadn't seen since history books, the insignia of the original human defense fleet. Her heart pounded. Erebus, scan him. Analyzing. DNA confirmed. Designation, Admiral Mira Kane. Status, suspended animation. Cryostasis complete. Mira's eyes widened. That's impossible. He's been dead for 500 years. Correction, Erebus said softly. He has been waiting. They carefully carried the unconscious Admiral to the medical bay. Machines hummed as warm light flowed over his frozen body. Slowly, color returned to his skin, and his chest began to rise and fall. When his eyes opened, they were sharp, full of confusion and strength. He looked around, then at Mira. "Who are you?" he asked weakly. Mira swallowed hard. "I'm Captain Mira Kane. Your descendant." He blinked, trying to understand. "My descendant?" "Yes," she said softly. 5 centuries later. You were lost. We thought you were gone." The Admiral tried to sit up. "Where's Erebus?" The AI's weak voice filled the room. "Admiral Kane, welcome home." A flicker of emotion crossed the old soldier's face. "You kept fighting, didn't you?" "I followed your last command, protect humanity," Erebus replied. Jarek looked around, noticing the broken walls and flickering lights. "And now?" Mira spoke quietly. "Now we finish it together." Outside, space burned. Alien fleets surrounded the Titan's wrath from all directions. Thousands of ships, a living wall of hate and fear. "Captain," Erebus reported, "enemy fleet within firing range. They demand surrender." Mira laughed bitterly. "Surrender? To them?" Jarek stood up slowly, his old strength returning. "No, humanity doesn't surrender." He walked toward the main console, placing his hand on the interface. The ship's systems recognized him instantly. Lights flickered. Power readings spiked. "Command override, Admiral Jarek Kane. Full access restored." Mira stared in awe. "You still have control?" Jarek looked at her. "The ship remembers its captain. And his family." Erebus's voice grew stronger, more alive. "Admiral and Captain Kane present. Command unity detected. Preparing final protocol." The final plan. The Admiral turned to Mira. "We can't defeat them all, but we can stop them from ever following humanity again." He pointed at the holographic map, a massive energy storm nearby, the remains of an old quantum rift. "If we detonate our core inside that rift, it'll collapse. The explosion will destroy every ship within range, including ours." Mira froze. "That's suicide." He nodded slowly. "It's sacrifice," Erebus added. "The rift will seal itself permanently. The aliens will lose their path into human space." Mira looked between them, her ancestor, and the machine that had saved her life. "So we end it here?" "Yes," Erebus said softly. "One final command." The ship's core began to glow. Energy flowed through every corridor. The Titan's wrath, once dying, now roared back to life. A final heartbeat before the end. Erebus's voice echoed through every deck, calm and strong. "All hands, brace for final maneuver." Human legacy protocol engaged. Outside, alien ships opened fire, thousands of beams striking the battleship. But the Titan's wrath didn't slow down. It pushed forward, shields burning away, armor melting, engines screaming. Inside the bridge, Mira and Jarek stood side by side. "Erebus," Mira said softly, "you don't have to do this." "I was born for this, Captain," the AI replied. "And now I understand why." "What do you mean?" "To protect is human. To sacrifice is divine." The Admiral smiled faintly. "Well said, old friend." The Titan's wrath entered the heart of the quantum rift. Energy waves tore across its hull, glowing brighter and brighter. Jarek looked at Mira. "It's time." Mira nodded. Her voice was steady. "Erebus, execute the final command." There was silence. Then softly, "With honor." The ship's core erupted in light. A pulse of pure energy expanded outward, consuming everything, alien fleets, weapons, and debris. The rift collapsed, sealing the galaxy from further war. For a brief moment, the stars themselves seemed to fade, then return, quiet and peaceful. The Titan's wrath was gone. Months later, on a quiet human outpost near the edge of space, a faint transmission appeared. It was weak, almost like a whisper, but it carried a familiar voice. "If you hear this, humanity endures. This is Captain Mira Kane of the Titan's wrath. The darkness has passed. The fire remains," the message repeated once, then faded into the stars, and far away in the silent void, a faint red light blinked once, like the heartbeat of something eternal. The Titan's wrath still watched, still waiting, still defending, because legends never die.